Shalom, shalom, everyone. Welcome to Shabbat Night Talk. My name is Uziel Lewy. I'm one of the teachers at Congregation Bay D.C.B. I'm glad that you're here with us tonight. Thanking the Most High King of Heaven and Earth for all things and everything, food, clothing, and shelter, knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Thanking the Creator for my life, the life of all of those who are here with us, CHOKMAH Yisrael. Also sending out our prayers to our brothers and sisters who are in the Carolinas, throughout all the area that are getting hit with this Hurricane Florence. May the Most High God bless and protect each and every one of you. That the mercy of the Most High be on each and every one of you, and that you don't get touched by this storm that's really raging through the region. Shabbat Shalom to everyone that's joining us right now. Dina Yisrael, Julie Figueira. I hope I'm saying it right every time I say it. Figueira. That's like Portuguese right there. Figueira. If I'm Yemima Prescott, Shabbat Shalom, and everybody else who's joining us tonight. Thank you, the Most High King Marshal Yisrael. Thank you for joining us. And everyone who's joining us tonight, thank you. This Erev Shabbat Night Talk, and Basheba Yisrael, Shabbat Shalom. Nia Long, Shabbat Shalom. The hurricane weekend, torah YAH. But I know the people in the coastal areas are really getting pounded. So we hope and pray that those people are doing good, you know. So give me 1 second here, as I'm trying to get someone in the hangout. Yeah, it's I heard like 5 people passed away, and that's unfortunate. You know, they did tell the people to evacuate, but sometimes that's easier said than done. Sometimes people don't have a place to go to. So it's easier to tell somebody to evacuate, but if you don't have a place to go to, where are you going to evacuate to? You get what I'm saying? So hopefully the Most High God will have mercy upon those that are there. Hope and pray that Yahweh will be merciful to all those people, that he will guide and protect them and keep them safe from all harm seen. Can't say unseen, because you could see the power of the might of the Most High, with his wind fulfilling his word, mighty winds fulfilling his words, like we read in Psalms 148. So all we could do is pray for those people, whoever they might be, and pray that the Creator will continue to bless them and protect them and keep them. is, you know, but it's really what humanity is doing to the earth. Give me 1 second. Yeah, it's real unfortunate that you know, people go through this, and that they but like I said, people don't have anywhere to go, and give me 1 second. Yeah, so I don't know who else is in harm's way. Praying that the Most High God be with all of you. Everybody that's in harm's way, that the Most High God will protect all of you that are in harm's way or in the path of the hurricane. But this is all the Most High's creation, you know, and we always give credit to the Creator for everything that He does, and we pray that the Most High will help, you know, will help His people, for real. Will help all the people that are in need, you know, so. So, give me 1 second here.
Oh,
Okay, so now we got
Shalom.
brother that will be on with us. So, my brother, just put your microphone on mute for a second. All right, so we got the brother Moreh Yeshaya, who I asked to join us tonight. He has a very interesting topic that he would like to discuss. The topic is a topic that's prevalent in our community. Is the day and night topic. Our brother Samal Zakar did a interview with me, and he discussed the matter of day and night. So our brother Moreh Yeshaya is going to touch on that. Today he has a PowerPoint presentation that he's going to bring forth to us, speaking about the day and night issue. So thank you to everyone who has joined us tonight. Hope and pray that you get something out of the lesson. And with that, I'll hand it over to Moreh Yeshaya. Go ahead, my brother.
Okay, Shalom. Can I be heard?
Yes, you could be heard loud and clear.
Hey, giving honor and praise to the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yeshaya Yisrael. I claim the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. And what we're going to get into tonight essentially is not a very long presentation, but a very needed presentation. And we're going to go over the aspect of calendars, linguistics, pictures, diagrams, not too much, but I wanted to show and showing the scriptures as the scriptures speak for itself regarding the topic being day and night, because that seems to have been a big controversy in Israel. And one of the things I want to say in introducing this kind of subject is once linguistics is known, the whole argument about day and night fades away. See, you had arguments in ancient Israel, let's say between Jeremiah and the people, between, let's say, one prophet or another, or between one king or another, or between even husband and wife. But it was never an argument based upon doctrine, because the language helps the people understand what it was. While they unfortunately in ancient times did worship their idols, they still were naming their children names that had appellations toward the Most High. So they knew right from wrong, they just chose wrong. But what happens in many cases, due to the fact of being replaced, or pardon me, displaced from where we come from our land, from our heritage, from our culture, being, as we have been hearing for years, I have been since the 1980s in the understanding of Israel, we are an Eastern people in a Western society. So this is something to talk about in that particular stance. All right. So can I still be heard? Can I still be heard? Shalom? You can start it if you ready.
You could be heard loud and clear. Don't worry. I just mute everything and I took me off from the screen, but you could be heard, all right?
All right, all right.
All right.
Yeah, we can start it now, my brother.
All right, no problem. I'll open up the screen.
Okay, giving honor and praise unto the Most High. As you begin to see in this PowerPoint here, it starts off by saying the matter of day and night. When does it start in Israel? Now, why do I subtitle it, When Does It Start in Israel? Is because we have to understand this from the focal point and the point that we're coming from as Israelites. All right, this is a presentation brought to you from an Israelite concerning an Israelite matter. Now, this is not to make anyone feel away or disavow anyone else, but if he or she doesn't lay claim to being of the house of Israel, this subject matter is open for all people. However, this is more so centered based upon some of the things that Israelites who claim to be Israelites have said. All right, so that's something I want to emphasize in that regard. Okay, brother, can you go to the next slide? Okay, good. Day and time in Israel's way. The next two slides will be due to the idea that some have that since Genesis 1 says the Most High divided the day from the night, that the Sabbath and other times is to be only in daylight and not like Genesis 1 verse 5 says, a day is. There was even and there was morning one day. Now, why do I emphasize that from Genesis chapter 1 verse 5? Is because it already shows you a pattern. It already shows you that something is already in counting. It already shows you that there's a process already becoming fulfilled. All right. So if there was evening and there was morning, we cannot then try to say there was morning and even one day. You can't say that. We have to know that it says in Genesis chapter 1, verse 5, as well as the other verses of Genesis chapter 1, and there was evening and there was morning one day. And there was evening and there was morning one day. Now, even in Hebrew, even and evening is the same exact word in Hebrew. That's the word ered, all right? And it basically comes from the word Arab. Now, the word Arab in Hebrew has two said meanings. One meaning to grow dark, the other meaning, that is to say, to mix. And one of the examples that I give concerning this kind of subject matter is the aspect of a DJ. When a DJ is what they're doing cross-fading from one aspect to the next, is going from one part to the next. That is what evening is. It's making it come to a meeting point. So that's what evening does. It makes the light part meet the night part. You understand? And so that's the evening out in that particular stance. So if there was evening and there was morning one day, we're going to have to break down and understand what a day is in the house of Yisrael. Next slide, my brother. Thank you. If I can be heard, next slide, please. All right, thank you, Ma'achi. Now, what we're looking at here says Genesis chapter 4, verse 3, and Exodus chapter 2, verse 23. Genesis chapter 4, verse 3. We're going to read the English first, right? It says, and in process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought of the fruit of the ground an offering unto the Lord. Now, the Hebrew, all right, says this. Why he mechwetz yamin. Why? Yaber kwayin mipreha adama minka la yod wahe. Now, why am I emphasizing this right here? And if you notice, there's certain parts on the left-hand side of the PowerPoint, brothers and sisters and elders included, that's highlighted. The highlighted part, when you see the third word for those familiar with the Hebrew, remember, Hebrew's always read from right to left, all right? It says the word there, yamin, all right? The word yamin is where we see the word translated here in Genesis chapter 4, verse 3 as the word time, all right? So let's see what we can see in Exodus chapter 2, verse 23. It says this in the English first. And it came to pass in the course of those many days that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage. And they cried, and their cry came up to Elohim by reason of the bondage. Now let's go into the Hebrew and see what we can glean from that, right? Wahi b'yamim harabim hahen, wayamet melech Misraim, why ya'anku b'nei Yisrael min ha'aboda, why yiz'aku wa ta'al shaw atam el ha'elohim min ha'aboda. Now, what am I pointing out in both parts in Genesis chapter 4, verse 3, and in Exodus chapter 2, verse 23? We see the highlighted part, right? On the left-hand side in Genesis, it says yamin, and then we see the translation says time. Then when we go to Exodus chapter 2, verse 23, we see as highlighted there, bayamin, all right? For edification, I don't know if people can see me with my arrow here, but as you can see where, if you're looking, bayamin, which means what? Yamin is the same word there, right? Thank you, my brother. You see that word there, yamin, right? It's the same word you see over there, highlighted, yamin. It's the same exact word in Hebrew. But we see the translation in one part in Genesis chapter 4, verse 3 says basically about the process of time. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, thank you for highlighting that. And then on the other side, we see what? Yamim also says in those many days. So we see that the word Yamim means days, also means time. That is the point in going over this particular aspect. This is something we want to emphasize for edification purposes. All right? Thank you for highlighting that so it can be seen. Well, maybe I should have done it in a different color, but myself. But thank you, my brother. So if you're able to see and understand, I want to recap on what I was just saying. You have Yamin translated in Genesis chapter 4, verse 3 as the word time. And then you have in Exodus chapter 2 where the word Yamim is translated as the word day. The word Yom means day. All right, we agree. So now we can see that it means day and it also means time. This is why we wanted to get into the linguistics of this matter. All right. So when you're ready, my brother, I appreciate your help with that. You can go on to the next slide. As you see, the brother highlighted the parts I'm talking about in the black. Thank you. All right, Numbers chapter 13, verse 20, and Numbers chapter 32, verse 10 in the English. All right. And what the land is, whether it is fat or lean, whether there is wood therein or not, and be ye of good courage and bring of the fruit of the land. Now the time was the time of the first ripe grapes. Now, we see as highlighted there, right? Even in the English there on the left-hand side in Numbers chapter 13, verse 20, where it says, now the time was the time All right. The Hebrew, as the brother highlighted there in the black, it says what? Wahayamim, and the time was Yemei, days of, times of. So the left-hand side, where you see the brother highlighted in the black, the word right next to it says the word Yemei. The word Yemei means days of, times of. That's what we're emphasizing and pointing out in that particular case. That the word Yom, pluralized as the word Yamim, means day, days, time. So when we're reading about Zakor et Yom HaShabbat, remember the Sabbath day, we can also correctly translate it as remember the Sabbath time, the timing of the Sabbath. This is what we want to point out for edification purposes. So now in Genesis, right, when we read that the Most High, he said in there that he called the light day and the darkness he called night. We're going to show in the scriptures where the night was actually in certain cases included within the daytime. And I'm going to show what I'm talking about for edification purposes. Now let's look, brothers and sisters, in Numbers chapter 32, verse 10. The English first. And the Lord's anger was kindled in that day, and he swore, saying, now the Hebrew, as the brother already, thank you, Ahi, for that, it says, Wayikar af Yah, but Yom Hahu, Wayishbah, pardon me, Wayishaba lemor. Now, the highlighted part there in the black on the left-hand side, pardon me, the right-hand side, it says, but Yom Hahu. The word Hahu means that. Ba or ba means in or in the. So when you're reading in Numbers chapter 32, verse 10, when you read there, the highlighted part there where it says Yom, that there is translated there in the English as the word day. But we have already shown in the previous slide, as well as on this slide, that the word Yom, pluralized as the word Yamim, can also mean the word time. That is what we want to show through different parts of what we're talking about while we talk about the day and the night issue in the house of Yisrael. Next slide, please. Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 10. And I think this is the tightest. And when I say tight, I mean as far as the argument cease at this particular point once it comes down to this one right here. Now, Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 10 is the prophet Moses speaking to the Israelites. Now, Moses, as we know, was the lawgiver on the human level to the children of Israel, right? And here's what we see in right here. All right. No, on the right-hand side, brother, there's no scripture there. Just the part on the left. Now, it says, now I stayed in the mount as at the first time, 40 days and 40 nights. And the Lord hearkened unto me that time also. The Lord would not destroy thee. Now, let's look at the Hebrew, right? It says this. Wa anoki amati bahar chayamim ha-rishonim. Arba'im yom, wa arba'im laila, wa yishma, pardon me, wa yishma, yah elai, gam, ba'am hahu, lo abba, yore wahe, hashkiteka. Now, as the brother highlighted there on the left-hand side, all the ways, as we can see here where the citation is on the top, Deuteronomy chapter 10, right? It says first time. First time. Now, in the Hebrew, as highlighted there and shown, it says Bayamim Harishonim. Now we already know in Hebrew that the adjective agrees with the noun, all right? So when we're reading this, we see the translation in Deuteronomy chapter 10. Looking at the word Yamim is translated as we see here, time. Now, for our brothers and sisters that are saying that the word Yom, pluralized as the word Yamim, can only mean the word day. Let's read Deuteronomy chapter 10, verse 10 in that translation without translating the word Yom or Yamim as time. Let's translate the word Yom or Yamim, pluralized that is, as the word day, and let's see what this says. Now I stayed in the mount as at the first days, 40 days and 40 nights. And the Lord hearkened unto me that time also. the Lord would not destroy thee. Do you see the problem with that translation? You see the Hebrew, all right, in the second line, the second word there, remembering that Hebrews always read from right to left. Arba'im Yom means in Hebrew 40 days. But now, if you're saying, brother or sister or elder, right, that the word Yom only means the word day, and that is only talking about the daylight itself, only, then we got a problem. We have a serious problem, because then one would have to explain why would we read, now I stayed in the mount as at the first days, 40 days and 40 nights. If you're saying that the day and the night was separated, and we see there in the Hebrew that Yom or Yamim plural can also mean time, that means, as stated earlier, that I wanted to show in the Israelite culture that the nighttime can be incorporated in the word Yom or the daytime as well, as you've seen right there. Because if we were to read it, brothers and sisters, with just the word day as the translation, we would read as follows. Now I stayed in the mount as at the first days, 40 days and 40 nights. That doesn't make any sense. That's why ancient Israel would never have an argument about Yom or Yamim being already affluent in the Hebrew language. You see why we promote and push Hebrew as hard as we do? You see why, may he be blessed, why you might see our brother Moreh Yiftach get into the aspect of getting into the Hebrew. The language is important. When we sit there and speak about, may our teacher Moreh Mishael, may he rest in peace, one of the grandest master teachers in the language, these are the kinds of things that Moreh Mishael will go over. Shalom Allah, may he rest in peace. You understand? So these are some of the things we want to point out. Let's read the other side. It says this. The point is that the word Yom means more than one meaning. It means day, course, and time. Thus, when we read of the separation of day and night in Genesis chapter 1, verse 4 through 5, that is speaking of his day and his night, which was the start of the count to the Sabbath. All right. Now, when I say his day and his night, it's not in a PowerPoint, but I'm going to read something, all right, out of the scriptures. And we're going to go to Jeremiah, for those able to follow along and hearing me. Let's go, if you will, to Jeremiah, all right, chapter 33, for edification purposes. We are in the scriptures in Jeremiah, the 33rd chapter, all right, so we can begin to see what we're talking about in this particular case. Jeremiah 33, verse 20, it says this, thus saith the Lord, if ye can break my covenant of the day and my covenant of the night, and that there should not be day and night in their season, then may also my covenant be broken with David my servant, that he should not have a son to reign upon his throne, and with the Levites, the priests, my ministers, as the host of heaven cannot be numbered, nor the sand of the sea measured. So will I multiply the seed of David my servant, and the Levites that minister unto me. Verse 25, thus saith the Lord, if my covenant be not with the day, not with day and night, and if I have not appointed the ordinances of heaven and earth. Why do I read Jeremiah chapter 33? Because it says about the Most High and his covenant of the day and the night. But you know what that is? It's just what it says, his covenant. You see, day and night is older than us humans. So whatever covenant the Most High has with the day and the night is between the Most High and the day and the Most High and the night. That has nothing to do with us as humans. We can't put ourselves in that position to say, well, the covenant of the day and night, and we as human beings are going to try to flow with that. No, our covenant in regards to what we're going to get into, as the PowerPoint here points out, is about the Shabbat. You understand? The sun and the moon, correct me if I'm wrong, don't observe the Shabbat. We are told to keep the Shabbat. That's part of the covenant that we, namely the house of Israel, was given as part of the human family. So that's part of our covenant with the Most High. The day and the night covenant is nothing to do with the house of Yisrael. That is between the Most High and his creation that happens to be older than the house of Israel. But our covenant with the Most High, in part, is the Shabbat. Let's go on to the next slide. Thank you. All right. Mercer continues. Pompey marched against the inhabitants of Syria, Palestine, who had ravaged Phoenicia. They had as leaders two brothers, Hyrcanus and Aristobulus, who were competing for the high priesthood. If the enemy, the Israelites, had defended it every day within equal energy, Pompey would never have been able to take it. But fortunately, the defenders permitted the day which they, when now this day here, THEY is the Romans, which they caused Saturday to pass without work. The Romans profited by these moments of relaxation to shatter the wall. It was thus that the temple was taken on Saturday without any resistance and all the treasures taken as pillage. What are we reading right here? Mercer wrote a book entitled Extra Biblical Sources for Hebrew and Jewish History. That is the name of the book that I'm citing right there. The name of the book that I cited when I cite there, when it says Mercer continues, it comes from a book, all right, called Extra Biblical Sources for Hebrew and Jewish History. Now, what am I pointing out right here is the aspect of what happened with the Israelites with Pompey. Pompey made Jerusalem a Roman province in the year 63 BCE. Now, the historian is stating right here that the enemy of the Romans, which is the Israelites, let their time go without any work on what the Romans call Saturday. So now when people attempt to ask us, why do y'all say y'all deal with this calendar of the new day and time when that has going back to Pope Gregory? We're going to get to Pope Gregory. We're going to talk about these kinds of things in the aspect of the timing of the calendar. All right? Because before Pope Gregory, all right, we see about the aspect of the Romans and the Israelites long before Pope Gregory. I'll go so far to say before 1,000 years before Pope Gregory's calendar. You get the aspect, brothers and sisters, of the Romans saying that what we, the Romans, call Saturday, the Israelites do no work. And they were happy that the Israelites did not do any work on what the Romans called Saturday, because that's when they was able to take the temple. So the Israelites was already keeping the Shabbat, still doing the hegemony of the Roman people, still doing the Roman Republic, because Pompey was ruling during the Roman Republic. And after Pompey, you later on come to Julius Caesar. After Julius Caesar, you get Augustus, then you get Tiberius, then you get the other people, and so forth and so on. You don't get, brothers and sisters, in history to the Roman Empire until the era of Augustus. Prior to that, it's the Roman Republic. So now, two emperors, or pardon me, two leaders, if you will, prior to Augustus, you get Pompey. All right? So when you're looking at that particular aspect, that's still the Roman Republic. Rudolf Windsor in his book spoke about Pompey storming the temple. Now, that temple that he stormed, brothers and sisters, was the temple that Ezra and Nehemiah had built in that particular era. All right? So, that's what we're talking about in that particular regard. So, when you see somebody calling the day Saturday, that doesn't mean that we're going to not do what we do on the Shabbat because some other nation calls it another time. Around the time of Pesach, okay, Passover, right? You have it to where, brothers and sisters, they have what they call Ishtar, aka Easter. That goes all the way back to Ishtar being worshipped in Babylon. That goes back before the Passover even came into existence. So what am I pointing out? Just because another nation calls something doesn't mean that it infringes on the house of Israel and what we understand for our culture. That's the point in that. All right? If I can be heard, next slide, please. Thank you, my brother. All right. Genesis chapter 1:14, Hebrew and English. We're going to read the English first, right? And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. All right. The Hebrew says this. Wayomer Elohim Yehi Me'orot Birkwi Ahashamayim Lahadil Bein Hayomu Bein Halayla Wahayu Le'otot Ul Mo'adim Wa Ul Yamim was Shanim. The black part says Wahayu, and the meaning is and they shall be. However, when the next word is prefixed with the Lamed letter, as you see there, we see that the meaning is and they shall become. So the signs were to become for signs, for seasons, for days and years. But for who? Remember, more than Israel is in the earth. More than the house of Israel is in the earth. So the Most High, all right, gave the nations their inheritance. Just like he gave the children of Yisrael the children of Israel's inheritance. So what am I pointing out in this? Many people attempt, brothers and sisters, to go to Genesis 1:14 to say that the sun and the moon, the literal sun, which is called CHOKMAH in Hebrew, and the literal moon, which is called BINAH in Hebrew, all right, is what is used to determine the day and the night. Well, that's an issue. Because if the two great lights, all right, were the sun and the moon, which they was created in a book of creation on the fourth day. So how then can the sun and the moon be used to determine day and night when day and night is older than the sun and the moon? The sun is said in Hebrew, brothers and sisters, I want to emphasize, all right, as the word CHOKMAH. The word CHOKMAH. Now, many Israelites already understand the word for sun, S-U-N, as the word shemesh. The word shemesh does mean sun. However, that word also, brothers and sisters, all right, denotes the aspect of that which is used. So when you go in the Bible in Psalms chapter 84, when it says, speaking of the Most High, that the Lord is a sun and shield, it's not saying that the Most High is the sun in the sky. We don't do that kind of worship. So Psalms chapter 84, verse 11, where it says in the English, the Lord is a sun and shield, the Hebrew is saying, Yod He Wah He Shemesh Umagen, which means that the Most High is a ministrant in the shield, not a sun, like the sun S-U-N in the sky. This is why, for instance, when you say the word for bathroom is what? Beit Shemush, the house of uses. The word shamash in Hebrew means to use or to serve. In Daniel chapter 7, when it says thousands ministered unto him, that thousands ministering, the word for minister in there is the word shemush. Shamash being the root of it. This is what we want to point out, and this is why the language becomes very, very, very important. All right? So, brothers and sisters, continuing on with this particular aspect, Genesis chapter 1:14 is saying that the lights that are in the firmament are to become for signs and for seasons and for days and years, because you have a different calendar, all right, in Alaska and certain parts. You have a different calendar in Antarctica. You have a different calendar in the North Pole. You have a different calendar in Brazil. You have a different calendar. I'll go so far as the land of Jerusalem. For instance, over here, where I'm in New York, right? In the East Coast, it is 9:09 p.m. right now. Do you know in the land of Israel, it is 8 hours ahead from where we are right now? So it is actually, quote unquote, daytime. It is daytime now. Whereas it's nighttime now over here, and most of us in America, it is daytime in Jerusalem as we speak this minute. So we can see that the calendar by default then is a difference in aspect. This is what we want to point out in that particular regard. So when it says, let them be for signs, for seasons, for days and years, that's not only talking about for the Israelites in Genesis chapter 1:14, because the Most High was creating the world. Next slide. Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 19. At least thou lift up thine eyes unto heaven, and when thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the host of heaven, thou be joined away and worship them and serve them, which the Lord thy God hath allotted unto all the peoples under the whole heaven. And be joined away after looking at the host of heaven. The Israelites were not supposed to look at the heavens to tell when to do a service. It would have led to sun and moon and star worship. And it says in First Chronicles chapter 12, verse 32 or verse 33, whether you got the Masoretic or the King James, all right, it says, it's saying Issachar the tribe having knowledge of what to do for the Israelites. It was not about looking at the heavens and worshiping the host of them. Let's go to Isaiah, please. All right, for those able to follow along, it's not in a PowerPoint, but let's go, if you will, to Isaiah chapter 47. All right, we are in the scriptures in Isaiah chapter 47, verse 12. It says this: stand now with thine enchantments and with the multitude of thy sorceries, wherein thou hast labored from thy youth. If so be thou be able to profit, if so be thou mayest prevail. Thou art wearied in the multitude of thy counsels. Let now the astrologers, the stargazers, the monthly prognosticators stand up and save thee from these things that shall come upon thee. So, chapter 47, speaking about Babylon, the stargazers, the astrologers, the monthly prognosticators. Know what that's talking about? Everything from your horoscope, brothers and sisters, right on down to the aspect of what Nancy Reagan used to do by looking at these people with astrology. Astrology is not part of the culture of Israel. So this is what we want to point out in that particular regard. So we don't say that, oh, my sign is Aquarius, my sign is Leo, my sign is this. Like, I got a little girl, and it offended both like her moms and myself, more so myself, when she's being born in what they call the month of July. Oh, she's a Cancer. My child is not a Cancer. Don't call my child a Cancer. My child is a princess. Not to get too personal or emotional or sentimental, if you will. You understand? But my child is not a Cancer. Our sign in the house of Yisrael is the Shabbat. Don't think so? When the Portuguese were trying to bring Catholicism / Christianity to the interior of Eastern Africa, into what they call Ethiopia of today, the Portuguese in the 1670s ran into the people that is called today in many cases as the Falashas. They call themselves the Beta Yisrael. All right? That's what they call themselves. The Portuguese reported in the 1670s that there is a group of Negroes that are keeping the biblical times of the Old Testament. Every quote-unquote Saturday, they noticed that the so-called philosophers, the Beta Yisrael, were not doing any work. Certain things they just stopped doing that they was doing 2 days before. And then they picked up doing the day after. So the Portuguese in the 1670s, and if you want the confirmation to my citation verbally, you can go to the book Valley of the Dry Bones by Rudolph Windsor. All right, the thing that I'm stating right now about the Portuguese and the so-called Falashas, I'm getting from a book called Valley of Dry Bones by Rudolph Windsor. All right, in the 1670s, they said that these people are keeping the Sabbath. So that's how we can tell that the Shabbat is the sign of the house of Yisrael. All right, as it says in Exodus, it's a sign between the Most High and the children of Israel. It is not being born in the Gregorian calendar of July, talking about somebody's child is a Cancer. All right. So when we see people being drawn away to the monthly prognostication aspect, the stargazers and the astrologers, that's what it talks about in Deuteronomy chapter 4, verse 19. And thou seest the sun and the moon and the stars, even all the hosts of heaven, thou be drawn away. Drawn from what? Drawn away from the Most High. That's what we're dealing with. Next slide. Thank you, my brother. Numbers chapter 10, verse 10. The moon determines the Sabbath, ? Also in the day of your gladness, and in your appointed seasons, and in your new moons, you shall blow with the trumpets over your burnt offerings, and over the sacrifice of your peace offerings, and they shall be to you for a memorial before your God. I am the Lord your God. Would not the moon look the same every Sabbath if the moon determined when the Sabbath was? That's another argument that's presented. Well, you have the lunar Sabbath, and when you look at the moon, that's when you calculate it. We want to show with reasoning that such is not the case. So the new moon does not determine the Sabbath. Next slide, because we want to explain some of the scriptures that are taught incorrectly. The scriptures ain't wrong, it's just some of the teachings concerning them are wrong. Next slide, thank you. Days to years. Days make weeks. Weeks make months. Months make years. There is a Passover time in Israel, which is a yearly event. There is a Sabbath time in Israel, which is a weekly event. What are we saying? That you have daily, weekly, monthly, and yearly. So the Sabbath is not a daily thing, it's a weekly event. Passover is a yearly event. All right? New moon, all right, is a monthly event. One will not look at a yearly count to determine what to do for a weekly observance. What am I pointing out? If we already know that Exodus says, Zakor et Yom HaShabbat l'Kwadso, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do all thy work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath to the Lord thy God. The seventh day. So the Hebrew word for week, W-E-E-K, is the word Shabuah. Shabuah is the word for week. This is pluralized as the word Shabuot. You know, when you hear many Israelites say Kag Shavuot, Shavuot or Shebuot, whether you say the vet or the bet, I'm not going there right now. But the word itself basically is translated as the word weeks, W-E-E-K-S. So with that word translated as the word weeks, the root of the word Shabuah is the word Sheba. The word Sheba means 7. That's how you can tell in the 7 the number. That's how you can tell in the Israelite calendar that a week has 7 days. The Sabbath is a day within a 7-day period. So now, if we see that days become weeks and weeks become months and months become years, the Passover is during a day on the Israelite calendar, but it is a yearly event. It's not a daily event. It's not a monthly event. It's not a weekly event. It's not an hourly event. It's a yearly event. One will not look to a yearly count to determine what to do for a weekly observance. So now if the new moon, the Kodesh, all right, if that is, and we already understand that is a monthly event, how then can you say that the Sabbath, which we have already established and shown is a weekly event, is determined by a monthly count? You can't do it. You cannot count what you do weekly by looking at a month. Just as much as you can't look at a day to find out what you do hourly. If you take in a day, which is said as 24 hours, you don't look at the day to find out what you do within an hour. You look at that particular hour to find out what to do. Because what you're doing in 1 hour of the day, you might be doing something different another hour of the same day. So if the Sabbath is a weekly event, which we have already understood, you cannot look at the moon, which is used to determine when the new months come in, for a weekly event as the Sabbath. So lunar Sabbath, bye-bye. There is no lunar Sabbath. It doesn't work in the Israelite calendar. All right, next slide, my brother. Thank you. A woman's monthly. Now, I didn't mean to get graphic, but let's just look. When a woman reaches a certain age in her life, she goes through puberty. Part of this is shown by her having a discharge, what is called issue in Leviticus of blood. This blood is released monthly and is not released weekly. Now, heaven forbid, if a woman is hemorrhaging, that can come daily, out of the time. You understand? That's something that one may have to look into some kind of aspect from a doctor or something of that sort. You understand? But if we already know that a woman has her cycle, in many cases referred to as her monthly, that's not something that happens daily, hourly, weekly, yearly. It's monthly. So each thing has its own time. So as stated, hours become days, days become weeks, weeks become months, months become years, years become decades, decades become centuries, and so forth. So if you having a centennial event, which is something every 100 years, you wouldn't look at an hourly calendar or an hourly count to find out what you do every 100 years. That's becoming too narrow. Some people make things too narrow or too wide when they talk about the lunar Sabbath. So I'm using the aspect of a woman's monthly to just show the edification and reasoning that a woman, and there are many women in the house of Yisrael, it's the opposite gender of the man. There's more women in a society than there are men inside of a society. And so with this, I hope I can drive it, blessed be the Most High, that I can drive the point home with this particular one right here. Tom Sheet, thank you. Next slide, brother. Isaiah 66, verse 23, not a calendar matter. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come to worship before me, saith the Lord. This is saying that from one appointed time to another appointed time, all flesh will come to worship the Most High. This is not saying that the Sabbath determines the new moon or the new moon determines the Sabbath. The point of Isaiah 66 is when all judgment is given, then all flesh, that which is left, shall worship the Most High. It's that simple. Isaiah 66:23 is not talking about a calendar and when to count a matter between new moon and Sabbath. The crux of Isaiah 66, verse 23 is talking about everybody coming to worship the Most High on Shabbat and new moon. That is not saying that the new moon determines the Sabbath. That is not saying that the Sabbath determines the new moon. That is saying when new moon and Sabbath happens to come, the determination is that all people to worship the Most High. Simple. You can't no more than that. Next slide. Jeremiah chapter 31 and Deuteronomy 16, verse 1. Remember we said earlier that we're going to show in the scriptures how what is understood as Lila, translated as night, is going to be shown as part of the Yom, or translated as day, which we already shown to be part of the time. Let's look. Jeremiah 31, verse 31. Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. For as much as they broke my covenant, although I was a Lord over them, saith the Lord. Deuteronomy 16, verse 1 in the English. Observe the month of Abib and keep the Passover unto the Lord thy God. For in the month of Abib, the Lord thy God brought thee forth out of Egypt by night. Do you see what the issue could be? Jeremiah chapter 31 says, in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt. It distinctly says day, right? In Jeremiah 31, that the Israelites were being brought up out of the land of Egypt. Now in Deuteronomy chapter 16, it says that the Lord their God brought thee forth out of Egypt by night. So what are we dealing with? I go to say that Jeremiah 31 there is a poor translation. That it should be translated as the word time, as opposed to the word day. And let's go over in the Hebrew for that. Lo, kabrit asher karati et abotam, bayom. Heke zikwi bayadam. Lahok zi ta'am. Be'eret mitzrayim asher hema. Heperu et beriti. Wa anoki ba'alti bam ne'um yohewahe. You see the highlighted part on the left-hand side? Says the day, bayom. Then you see the highlighted part on this side where it says night. So my question then to the brothers and sisters or elders included, right? And elders included, that is, right? That go hard emphatically and to say the word yom only means day and that's the like part. How do you explain Moses and Jeremiah when they were speaking in Hebrew? Because see, this is why we said we want to get into the linguistics of the matter. Because see, Jeremiah and Moses didn't speak English. When you look at the front of many Israelite camps, the wording says Hebrew Israelite. Israelites did not speak English. Now, this is not saying that Hebrew makes you holier, better, wiser, smarter, none of that. But it does help understanding. And all you're getting, get understanding. There are brothers and sisters who have Hebrew classes and Hebrew tutorials online. I conduct a Hebrew class myself. The brother Moreh Yiftach, he conducts a Hebrew class himself. There's a sister, Tehillah, she has Hebrew classes herself. There's no reason why, if you want male or female, they're online doing this. The language is out there. So there are those of us who's teaching it. Take it for what it's worth online. See, let me explain something about when I was going to Hebrew class. There was no YouTube in 1993 when I was going to Shabbat Yisrael. There was no YouTube. I got on the Q4 bus in Queens that took me down by Cambria Heights to get there with a pen, for those able to see me, a pen as so, and a notebook. And we sat in chairs that did not have a cushion. And Kohen Mikael went over the lesson again and again and again. And this is why I always give respect on a human level to my Hebrew teacher, Kohen Mikael. You understand? I had to get on a bus in order to acquire what it was. Years later now, we can utilize the internet and make it even to a wider audience. Blessed be the Most High. You understand? So we want to emphasize that Jeremiah 31, where it says in the English there, day should be translated as we've shown in Deuteronomy and in Numbers and in Exodus, that the word yom can be translated as the word time. In the time that I took them out of by the hand, not in the day, but in the time. But yet we already know that the word yom means day and time. Next slide. Thank you, my brother. If you hear me, next slide, brother. Bible Dictionary on the Sabbath. Grant and Raleigh's, all right? Bible Dictionary speaks on the Sabbath in the Hebrew Israelite culture as never moving regardless of the season of the year. The Sabbath is a fixed time. The Sabbath is a fixed time. One of the prayers, all right, it says we keep the Sabbath in remembrance of the creation. When you read in Genesis about the creation, it has a set time. This day this day this day that. That's how you know Sabbath does not rotate. Sabbath cannot rotate, brothers and sisters, by saying, even if you look at today's calendar, okay, this month is Sunday, this month Sabbath is called Monday, and then Tuesday, it don't work like that. It doesn't flow like that. And you know that because of the Hebrew. You understand? When you read Zakor et Yom HaShabbat, what are we emphasizing? Zakor et Yom HaShabbat. The word et shows a definite article. That means that it's something that's not saying a Sabbath, it's saying the Sabbath. Zakor et Yom. If I were to say ish means a man. If I were to say et ha-ish, I'm saying the man. When you go about the tabernacle in the book of Exodus, it says et quidiyot, et hawawim, et so forth and so on, about the curtains, about the boards, and so forth and so on, and about the hooks and the tent pins and everything of that sort. It's specific. It's not just any old tent pin, just like the Sabbath is not just on any old day. It's a set time. And we already shown externally that what the Romans called Saturday, the ancient Israelites in the time of Pompey was already keeping Shabbat. So that predates Pope Gregory's calendar. Next slide, please. The matter of Isha and Eshet, and Isha and Eshet in Hebrew. All right, now, the word in the black is Isha. The meaning is woman/wife. When showing the noun, in this case, wife, as a possession, we see it in the white lettering here as Eshet. The word Eshet means wife of or woman of. What am I pointing out, brothers and sisters? All right? That Isha is any woman. Isha is any wife. But Eshet is specific. Eshet re'elka. your neighbor's wife. You see, by having the tau in there, as you see in the white part there in the Hebrew, the aleph, the sheen, and the tau, by having that tau there, that right there shows, brothers and sisters, that's just not any old average woman. When you read about Deborah, I spoke about Deborah on Facebook earlier with some Israelites online, all right? Deborah, Eshet Lapidot. Deborah, the wife of Lapidot. Eshet Chayil, a woman of value. It's as you read in like Proverbs 31, when it says Eshet Chayil, that's not just talking about any woman, it's talking about a specific woman. So, what is the point in that? If you read, brothers and sisters, that it says Et HaShabbat is speaking of a specific time. Let me show what I'm talking about. Next slide, my friend. Toda Achi. The matter of Shesh and Sheshet. The word seen in the black is Shesh, and the meaning is six, like S-I-X. The word not shown, Shisha, means six, like the six of this or the six of that. All right? The word in the Hebrew is Sheshet, and the meaning is six of. Exodus 20 says 6 days. However, the six is Sheshet, meaning six of, a specific six. Like Eshet is not just a woman, but a woman of. So is Sheshet not a regular six, but a specific six. You don't think Hebrew was important? You got Israelites going around saying, oh, I can just count any old 6 days, and they say it's a Sabbath. No, you can't just count any old 6 days and then say, well, this week, this will be the Sabbath. And then I'll count another set of 6 days looking at the moon, whether it be waxing or waning, crescent or full or what have you. And I'm just going to sit there and just start counting from there. That's why you got different counting. See, but even without the knowledge of Hebrew, because my teachers, not all of them knew Hebrew, but whether or not they knew Hebrew or not, they all was in sync with the calendar about when the Shabbat is to be kept. But when you want that overtime on Shabbat, perhaps people are going to make up their own timing. I'm talking from experience, keeping it 100. So when you find people saying, oh, you can't keep Shabbat in captivity, so forth and so on, that's not the person to entertain. Israelites, unfortunately, in certain cases, do find themselves working on Shabbat. Many who do, majority who do, try their best to get out of that job so that way they will be off on Shabbat. But when you just have a lackadaisical, what have you, attitude about it, and then you try to bring others into that circumference that's wicked as who knows what. Well, we in captivity, we have no rest in this land, but you all over PowerPoints, you all over Facebook, you all over other people's timeline, you're all over Messenger, but you got time to say that we don't have no rest for the sole of our foot. But you done created your own YouTube channel, and you done created your own Facebook, which means that you have to create either your own telephone number, which means that you're going to have to pay on the bill on it, or you already sat there and have an email. But you're saying, while having all that, you're going to profess to other Israelites, while we're attempting to keep the Shabbat, that you can't keep Shabbat. See, that's why it's important that as we read in Exodus, it says the Sabbath to the Lord thy God, not to the person on Facebook, not to the person on Instagram, not to the person in the PowerPoint, not to the person in Google Hangout, but between you and the Most High is the Shabbat. So the people who tell you, go ahead and work on the Shabbat, as opposed to telling you how to get a job where they won't be requiring you to work on Shabbat, or where you can get a letter where you can sit there and bring under quote unquote religious, quote unquote, because we know it's not a religion, but quote unquote religious aspects to say that due to my beliefs, I don't work on this day. You're not going to make that attempt. You're not going to have the spirit that Job did. Just in case my children did wrong, here's my offering. You don't have the quarter bond or offering in your lab, in your heart, in your mind already? No. You got that overtime in your mind. You got that kesef in your mind. That's what it is. You understand? And I say this not to slander nobody, but I'm talking from what I know from experience. You understand? Next slide. Thank you, brother. If you hear me, all right. Let's go in, all right? Because we got one more power on point line after this. Days don't determine the week. Weeks don't determine the months. If we look at the first day of a week, can we determine what week that is? No. If we look at the first week of a month, can we determine what month that is? No. Since each has their own time, we have what is called daily and weekly, as well as monthly. Lee. It is a suffix meaning having the qualities of appertaining to, appropriate to. So monthly means that which appertains to a month. Weekly is that which appertains or belongs to a week. We know, for instance, that we have daily, thus we speak of a weekly washing of self. Pardon me. Thus, to speak of a weekly washing of self will make some wonder what one is speaking of. What am I saying in that PowerPoint slide right there? Right? We have daily things that we do, or things that we do every day. Daily and every day is the same thing, such as washing up. If somebody were to sit there and look at a calendar of one's washing under a weekly cycle, how often do you bathe? The Sabbath is a weekly event, not a daily event. That's what we want to keep on pointing out in these kind of aspects. So we're talking about lunar Sabbath. We're talking about the day and night. We're talking about Hebrew. We're talking about the calendar. And we're talking about the spirit of some who don't want to keep the Shabbat. All right? Now, this is not in a PowerPoint, but I want to read something. This is in Leviticus chapter 23. And it says as follows. Leviticus chapter 23. All right? Verse 1. It says this. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, concerning the feast of the Most High, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts. Now, as we know in the Hebrew, it says, Elohim Mo'adai, which means these are my seasons. 6 days shall work be done, but in the seventh day is a Sabbath of rest, a holy convocation. You shall do no work therein. It is a Sabbath of the Lord in all your dwellings. That's in Leviticus, the 23rd chapter. The Sabbath to the Most High in all your dwellings. This is not to sound belligerent or haughty or anything of that sort. Where can one find where the weekly Sabbath in the Torah is said to be kept only in the land where the Most High chooses his name to dwell? I could show you that for Passover, where it says you should not sacrifice the Passover in any of your gates, but at the place where the Lord thy God shall choose, you shall sacrifice the Passover. I could show you that in Deuteronomy. Can anybody show where the weekly Sabbath is said to only be observed in the place where the Most High calls his name to dwell? Because that's another argument presented by those who say we cannot keep the Sabbath. Another argument is, well, the covenant was broken, so we can't keep that time. My question then is, what do you do in regards to the Brit Milah, circumcision? Because circumcision is also part of the covenant. So if you're saying that the covenant was broken, do you teach that we don't be circumcised either? See, when you trying to run from the Most High, these are the kinds of things, see, there's no getting around Yah. You see, he knows the end of a matter before it exists. It says, shall he who made the eye not see in Psalms chapter 94. You understand? Isaiah 55 says that his ways is above our ways and his thoughts is above our thoughts. So while we're trying to, in certain cases, hop on the fact of, well, we're not in the land, well, we can't sit there and do this, that, or the third, so we may as well not sit there and do anything, when in actuality, in most cases, you just thinking about getting overtime at the job. See, let's go, if we will, to the book of Ezekiel. All right? Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 11, please. Now, as a matter of fact, let's go to Ezekiel for those following. It's not in the PowerPoint, but let's go to Ezekiel, brothers and sisters, chapter 6, verse 8. And let's see if we can see how this is applied. Ezekiel chapter 6, verse 8. Yet I will leave a remnant, that ye may have some that shall escape the sword among the nations, when ye shall be scattered through the countries. And they that escape of you shall remember me among the nations, where they be carried captives. We would carry captives, right? They should make movies on it. Because I am broken with their whorish heart, which has departed from me, and with their eyes. We are in Ezekiel chapter 6, verse 9, which go a whoring after their idols, and they shall loathe themselves for the evils which they have committed in all their abominations. So what it says right here in Ezekiel chapter 6, verse 9, and they that escape of you shall remember me. In other words, remembering the Most High. So if we are said that ancient Israel descendants were to remember the Most High, that means at one point Israel forgot the Most High. Like it says in Jeremiah, they have forgotten me days without number. All right. So when we read right here in Ezekiel chapter 6, it says what? About remembering the Most High. It also says in Exodus to remember the Sabbath day. Now let's see about what it says concerning those who remembered the Most High that escaped the sword among the nations. Let's see what it says in Ezekiel chapter 11, if we will. Ezekiel chapter 11, verse 16. Therefore say, thus saith the Lord God, although I have cast them far off among the heathen, and although I have scattered them among the countries, yet will I, speaking of the Most High, yet will I be to them as a little sanctuary in the countries where they shall come. There is no reason to not keep the laws of the Most High in the lands of your captivity. It says right in Ezekiel chapter 6, verse 8 and verse 9, that they that escape among the nations shall remember the Most High. And then in Ezekiel chapter 11, 16, it says, of those that remember him that were carried captive, that the Most High will be as a little sanctuary in the countries. So though we don't have the temple, does it mean that you're going to sit there and just do the overtime at 4 p.m. on Saturday afternoon? This is what we're talking about, brothers and sisters. These are the kinds of things that we want to present for edification purposes. All right, we're going to next slide. Thank you, my brother, and close out. The matter of Gregory the 13th and Tacitus. In 1582, Pope Gregory the 13th made a calendar essentially so that his people, will not follow the Julian calendar. The difference is that the Julian calendar is 10 minutes shorter. The Julian calendar was introduced by Julius Caesar in 46 BCE. The months of what we understand as July and August were named in honor of Julius and Augustus Caesar. The timing we see of AD and BC was made by Dionysius Exiguus, who was a Roman monk. In the year 525 AD, or some as Israelites say 525 CE, right? Or the Common Era, right? The dating you see that of today as BCE and AD was created in today's calendar in the year 525 CE. So knowing that that whole calendar thing is a thing with Europe, with BCE and AD, that's why we try not to bang our head too much about that. That Israel already had a calendar that was established. So when it says in Deuteronomy, observe the month of Abib, that's part of Israel's calendar. All right. For instance, the word Abib means to sprout forth or greenery, because the Hebrew word Ibib, which means to sprout forth green or to a vegetation kind of aspect, all right, or kind of plants, the greenery. The word Ibib means greenery, all right, in Hebrew. So when you're looking at it like that, you can tell by looking not at the sun or the moon about when you're going to say when Pesach will come in, but by looking at what comes up out of the earth as well. Remember in the book of Amos, when it says that 2 or 3 cities became one because the Most High kept away the rain from coming upon the people? There's a time of the former rain and the latter rain. The former rain happens around the first month in the Hebrew calendar, and then you got the latter rain happening in the month of Itanim, the month that we're in now. All right, so these are things we want to point out in that particular regard for edification purposes. Brothers and sisters, I want to go and cite a couple of more things and then close out. Let us go, if we will. Yeah, that slide right there, I meant to actually just take that off about the Black Friday thing. But just wanted to give a shout out to the Mishpaka drummers as well as the others. Torah, my brother Chief Uziel, in regards to doing this timing, about the aspect of this day and night situation and getting it out there to the people. But I want to read something, if we will, concerning they who say, oh, it says Sabbath day, you don't say Sabbath night. So, and this says in Exodus, right, that 6 days you shall labor and do all your work. So with the day and night argument as presented, if you work at night, are you sinning? Because if you're saying it says Sabbath day, it doesn't say Sabbath night. I'm asking then, brothers and sisters, if you work, have a night job, are you sinning? Because nowhere in there are you commanded then to work at night. See the logic? See, in Proverbs 31, it says, the woman of valor, she rises while it is yet night and does certain things. So let's go and close out. Let's go to Nehemiah chapter 2. And let's see, because there's a teaching that was saying that ancient Israel only did things in the daytime. Even though Passover comes in at nighttime, you're keeping the Pesach, Leil Hashimorim. In Exodus says Leil Hashimorim, which means a night of watching, Leil, night of, Lila, night, Leil, night of. A night of watching. You're staying up all night on the 14th of Abib, which leads into the 15th day of Abib. So, what are you talking about when you say they did nothing at night? Let's see what's going on in Nehemiah chapter 2. Let's start in verse 12. And it says this, and I arose in the night, I and some few men with me. Neither told I any man what my God had put in my heart to do at Jerusalem. Neither was there any beast with me, save the beast that I rode upon. And I went out by night by the gate of the valley, even before the dragon well, into the dung port, and viewed the walls of Jerusalem, which were broken down, and the gates thereof were consumed with fire. So they did do things at night, such as surveying what was going on inside of their land. All right, and that coming out of the book of Nehemiah. In Psalms 119, verse 62, it says, I will arise at midnight and give thanks to the Most High. So there's nothing wrong, brothers and sisters, with thanking the Most High and giving praise to the Most High at any given time. Let all breath praise Yah. And with that, I say thank you for the time. Shalom.
Thank you, my brother, for that message and for bringing understanding to God's people. I'd like to thank everyone that came on and joined us tonight. I hope that you were edified, and the brother put forth his effort and gave a clear breakdown of everything. And I appreciate you, my brother, for coming on and doing that for us, and bringing understanding to God's people. Sometimes we often we don't get clear understanding, and the brother brought it in a way to where you could understand it clearly in the English, and he showed you the mistranslations, and then he brought it in the Hebrew to show you the better way to translate. So that way we won't have any kind of confusion as to what is it that we're following and what we're doing. I thank you once again, my brother Moray. May the Most High God bless you and keep you. May the Most High God continue to be with you and guide you.
Thank you, brother.
If you want to, at this moment, you could give some closing statements, so that way we could close out the stream.
Okay, if I can be heard, giving honor and praise to the Most High, creator and maker of heaven and earth. Let's go and close out on this note here. Exodus chapter 16, verse 23. All right. And it says this, Exodus 16, verse 23, and trying to make sure the pages are not stuck together. And it's as it is stuck here. Sorry about that.
Hold up. What you said, Exodus 16:23?
16, verse 23. Yes,
Give me a second here.
no problem.
Exodus 16:23 reads
As follows. And he said unto them, this is that which the Lord has said, tomorrow is a rest of the holy Sabbath unto the Lord. Bake that which you shall bake today, and seed that which you shall seize, and that which remaineth overlay up for you to be kept until the morning. Do you understand the emphasis of that verse is not saying that the Sabbath is only in the daytime? It says makar in Hebrew, which means a time to come. Translated in many cases as morrow or tomorrow. All right. The emphasis is what you get today, cook that today. Because you're not going to be able to be cooking tomorrow, which is the Shabbat. Most of the times people did things in the daytime, but that's not the only time in which they did things, as we went over in different cases and so forth and so on. So that was the point to go over that in that particular regard. All right. I like to take the opportunity now to say torah YAH. On the human level, I want to say thank you to the brother Chief Uziel in regards to getting this presentation out to the people, and Shalom Lakim. Lala Tov.
Shalom Lakam, my brother. And may the Most High God bless you.
You
May the
too.
Most High God bless everyone in the room. And for all the people that are in the North Carolina, South Carolina area, all of you affected by the hurricane, may the Most High God protect you and be with you, guide you and keep you. May the blessing of Yah continue to shine upon you and keep us all safe. Hallelujah. Shalom, shalom. See you again in the AM, 11 a.m. on the D.C.B channel. Thank you for tuning in. May the Most High God bless each and every one of you. Shalom Aleichem.